Hello and welcome. We have 2:30 on the dot here on the East Coast, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Colleen Newvine. I'm the product manager of the AP Stylebook. Joining me today is Chris Kohick, manager of the apstylebook.com website, our e-commerce function, all things technology. Between the two of us, I hope we can answer most of your questions today, but if you happen to stump us, we're happy to follow up with you later. This is a call I'm personally very excited about. I was an information officer at the University of Michigan covering health sciences before I joined the AP in 2006. I did not know that AP Stylebook Online existed back then. We shared a couple of print style books in our newsroom. I hope we've created the tool that if I had a time machine would have made my life easier and my colleagues' life easier. I'm going to start out with just a little background about the AP Stylebook. I'm assuming if you're taking the time to join today, you probably know something about us, but just to kind of catch you up on our history, AP Stylebook started as an internal tool for AP's journalists. As you might know, we have reporters and editors all around the world. And when the Stylebook started, the goal was to make sure that everybody who was creating content all around the world was using consistent punctuation, capitalization, explanations, try and make sure that that you couldn't see a big difference in what came in from New York or London or LA. And then what some people are surprised to learn is that the AP is a not-for-profit cooperative. So daily newspapers are members of the AP, and as part of that cooperative, they not only take news from us, and back in those days in the 1950s, it was all about print, so they'd put our stories in their newspaper, but they'd also send their stories into us, and we would then distribute them out and share them with other members of the co-op. So if something happened in a place where an AP journalist wasn't, our members would help to cover that news. So there was also an incentive to make sure that their content was consistent. So word started getting out that the AP Stylebook existed, and members started wanting it as well. So it's now grown to a tool that's far broken out of the newsrooms. PR people are at least as passionate about the Stylebook as reporters and editors are. I hear from a lot of you on our very active Twitter account. And as of a few years ago, the physical book that a lot of us have a lot of affection for was overtaken by AP Stylebook Online as our biggest product. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is the subscription-based online tool, AP Stylebook Online. So you'll see right now that I'm on the homepage, and I'm not logged in. So this is what you would see if you're not a customer yet. And then you can just scroll down and put your username or email followed by your password. And one important trick is go ahead and click this Remember Me box when you log in. And that way, if you take your laptop home or you take it over to a lab or any other place that you might do some content creation, you'll stay logged in. As part of our security system to make sure that it's actually you using your login, if we detect you coming in from more than 3 IP addresses, we will automatically reset your password. But if you go ahead and click that Remember Me box, then you can log in from as many IP addresses as you like, and that'll override that security measure. So this is what the homepage looks like once you're logged in. And I should say here, if you have any questions as we go, feel free to add those into the chat box. I'll try and catch those as we go, but if we miss any, we'll make time for your questions at the end as well. This is the homepage, and probably the most important feature of AP Stylebook Online is this giant search box up at the top. When we redesigned the website a few years ago and we were showing prototypes to some of our subscribers, they kept saying, make it bigger, make it more prominent. Search is so important. So we've worked to make sure you absolutely can't miss it. And we've also worked on the search functionality itself. As you use that search, you will find that it brings you back your custom entries. I'll show you how to create one of those in a little bit. It brings back the entries that are related to that word in the Stylebook itself. And it also comes back with some of our related features that I'll introduce you to in a few minutes. So it's searching everything that you have access to on apstylebook.com all at once. When I was in journalism school, you had to sort of learn to think like the AP Stylebook editors. And one of the things you had to memorize, for example, was if you wanted to know how to make a bulleted list, you couldn't just look up bullets. You had to go to the punctuation chapter and look in the dashes entry, I think it was. But now you just know that you can look in bullets. And of course, we've also now added an entry on lists and bulleted lists, but you wouldn't need to know where to find that because the search function does it for you. I think that helps to get you to related entries as well that you might not have thought to look at. So, you know, maybe if you were looking up the bulleted lists entry, you wouldn't think that you might also want to see the colon entry, which would then explain when you use a colon in a bulleted list. When I showed you the results, one of the things that I mentioned over here on the right is ask the editor. That's one of our most popular functions. I'll show it to you out here from the main page. So you can just go ahead and scroll down to ask the editor. This is exactly what it sounds like. If there's guidance that you'd like clarification on, you're trying to figure out how to apply an AP Stylebook rule to a particular usage case that you have, or maybe there's something we don't have a rule about at all and you'd like to get some help on that, you can go to Ask the Editor. Now, I think one of the easier things to do here is you can either use that big search up at the top, or before you create your own question, you can search within Ask the Editor to see if anybody has asked that question before, and save yourself the trouble of having to enter your question and wait for a response. You can also go to our frequently asked questions, because things like acronyms and capitalization come up so often that we want to try and help you out on the things that come up most frequently. And then here's how you submit your questions. So you just go over to submit and you type in your answer. When you set up your account, you have the ability to get notified by email when you get an answer to Ask the Editor. So you can either keep checking back or you can opt into getting an email from us when that gets answered. Another popular feature is our topical guides. So this is again from the home page. These are roundups of AP style rules, as well as sort of general background that might be useful to you to cover topics that are in the news. So for example, if you want to look at the hurricanes topical guide, it includes our definition of what's a hurricane or a typhoon, what are the differences between the hurricane categories, but it also gives some historical background about major big hurricanes that have hit the US. You can just see that it's sort of a roundup, and then again, some background on Superstorm Sandy. So let's say that, I'll go back to that entry about bullets. let's say that you have a different style in your office. So for example, our style is you capitalize the first letter and you put a period at the end of each bulleted item. Maybe you've made a decision that you don't want to punctuate at the end of items within a bulleted list if they aren't a full sentence. And so that's your local style. You could put that down here and just say local style, don't add a period unless items are a full sentence. And then when you add that, everybody who's on your site license, if you have more than one user, if you have 10 or more users and you have a site license, everybody is able to see that note if it's added by your site administrator. Individual users can add their own notes that only they will see. So if there's something you have trouble remembering, your boss doesn't need to see that you added a note for clarification to help remember that. If we go back out over to the main page, you'll see at the very top, we have custom style book. We figure your notes and entries are the most important thing to you and your users. So we put that at the very top. You can easily look at just your notes, just your style book, or add an entry. So if you'd like to, well, apparently I was writing about Central Michigan last time. That's my alma mater. So I'll go ahead and take that prompt. You'll notice that we have these WYSIWYG abilities to bold that or italics. I could add a link. And then we can create that custom entry. Now, if I go back to my custom stylebook entries, you'll see that that entry I just created is here. And note that when you look at these entries in this sort of search view, you can favorite them right from the search results, or when you click through, you can favorite or unfavorite from there. So if there are entries that you find yourself always referring to because they're what I call style kryptonite, you can make it a little bit easier to find those as well. And so then when you go back out here, you can see your favorites from the main page. I'm just going to pause for a second. I see we've got a few questions, so I'll pop over. Ann Gibson, you said you weren't hearing any sound. Just want to make sure you're all good. If you're still experiencing difficulty hearing the sound, let me know. Can someone just let me know that everything sounds good? Okay, great. So I'll continue and jump into showing off the new health and science chapter. So if we're on the homepage, you can view the AP Stylebook a few different ways. One of them is you can go to this entry here, view by chapter. And my connection is a little bit slow right now just because I have the recording going. So then I'll go to specialty chapters and pop down to health and science. This is a brand new chapter this year in the 2019 style book. So if you're using an old style book, you know, that beat up old one that's sitting around in your office, you'd have to have a 2019 to have seen this or subscribe to AP Stylebook Online. This is new content. I'll give you a quick overview of some of what's in here. First, we have an explanation about how journalists might choose a good story. This would be really helpful to you as a PR person to understand what's that hurdle that the AP Stylebook is suggesting a story should reach before we cover it. So does it help us understand our world? Does it have value to readers, not just give credit to a researcher, university, or hospital? A good test, whether it would be talked about at the dinner table. Important science usually is made public in journals or at scientific meetings. We talk a little bit about peer review. We talk about the source. So we go through kind of these ideas of how you might select a story. We talk about how scientific journals, meetings, and embargoes work. So we try and help reporters, both who are science and medical reporters and those who may be general assignment reporters or freelancers, understand how that world works. We give definitions of different kinds of experiments and studies and analyses. And then again, this is another section where we're helping journalists evaluate the newsworthiness of a press release or a pitch that they're receiving, so that they understand, with all the other things that are hitting their desk, whether this pitch is one that they should consider. There's an old cliche about journalists being math phobic. I don't think that can be the case anymore because data journalism is so important, but just to make sure that everybody feels comfortable talking about the numbers that are used in science and medical reporting, we explain some terms like relative risk and absolute risk. We get into some statistics with p-value. We talk about confidence interval and whether the statistics are statistically significant. We give a warning about how to use percent versus percentage points and the difference there. And then some suggestions about how reporters might make sure that they're getting a balanced story. And again, this may help you do your job. If you're going to pitch your story, you'll know that they may be also looking for an independent expert to comment on it, or maybe you want to pitch your experts to be that independent expert who can verify or comment on somebody else's study. And of course, we want to talk about financial disclosures and medical costs. So as you can see, this is a rich resource. All of this is available to you if you subscribe to Stylebook Online, in addition to, as it says at the very end, the individual terms that might come up that are in the A to Z section of Stylebook Online. So that's my fast-talking New Yorker overview of what AP Stylebook Online is and some of the highlights of what you'll find if you use the health and medical chapter. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can hand over to Chris Kohik, and he can show you some of the nuts and bolts about how you place an order, because we also understand that in addition to liking the functionality, you probably also need to talk to your accounts payable department or your office manager to place an order.
Thank you, Colleen. I hope everyone can hear me. My name is Chris Kohik, and I work on the technical side, specifically with the website, but also the e-commerce application involved with AP Stylebook. One thing I wanted to add to Colleen's presentation was we also, if you haven't purchased a book recently, about 3 years ago or so, we added a polls and surveys chapter. And I thought I would just note that to this community here in healthcare, and just if you are reporting reporting the results of a survey, such as a patient care survey or a staff survey that's going into a newsletter or your magazine, this is a great resource for providing clarity in terms of understanding what a majority is, what a plurality is, and how to deal with margin of error and other types of nuances that can need to be very specific with references to surveys. And so I would just point this out as well, just as a resource that you may want to look to as you're working through AP Stylebook Online. But my task today was I wanted to discuss with you how the e-commerce component works, and how you can set up, so if you have a procurement officer that you need to run this by and get approval for your budget, or run it by your boss, how you can get that taken care of. Quickly here on the home page of our store site, you can see that we have both a the book, the print edition here for the 2019. We have AP Stylebook Online, which Colleen and I are discussing today. We also offer style checking tools, which include AP Style Guard, which works with Microsoft Word and Microsoft Outlook, as well as AP Lingify, which works with today's browsers and allows style checking proactively, like a spell checking tool, to take place within your browser, either within your, within your content management tool or other resources that you use within a web browser. And then lastly, we have the AP Style Quizzes, which is a series of, I think, 80 plus or 90 quizzes actually, that are short, multiple choice that you can take online. They're based on topics or upon recent changes, so you can brush up and keep current with AP Style. Quickly here, also on the right-hand side, we do have a link to the shopping cart. And as you can see, I had a product listed in here. I'm going to focus a little bit on our site licenses. And we offer two different kinds of those. A concurrent user site license, which is a system where we create a custom URL, for instance, www.apstylebook.com/Children's Hospital of Atlanta. And then you can have access to that specific URL for your staff, and they are not required to have their own individual logins. This works well with libraries and certainly with healthcare organizations, especially larger ones, where maybe you want to provide this resource to your entire staff. In that case, you don't have to assign logins to every individual person, but you can point them to this link. And in this case, with the 50 concurrent user license that we have listed here, up to 50 people could access that custom URL at a time. Conversely, if you have a smaller organization or you would prefer to manage individual accounts, we have what's known as a named user site license. And in that situation, each individual user is assigned by you as the account manager, and you can authorize various users, up to 50 in that example, to have access to AP Stylebook Online by logging in, much like Colleen had shown earlier. So now I'm going to go ahead and create a new order working with AP Stylebook Online. We've developed this shopping assistant, which helps you to determine what exactly you're looking for based upon how many users you have. We do offer individual subscriptions, but for our business partners and customers, they tend to require more than one account. So for the sake of our tutorial here, I'm going to select that I need access for up to 50 users. Question 2, the Webster's New World College Dictionary is the Associated Press's #1 go-to dictionary. So obviously there are words that are not going to be available in the style book, but if you have a question regarding it, we rely on Webster's New World College Dictionary. With AP Stylebook Online, you can include access to that directly as part of your subscription for a little bit more money, and then those results show up right alongside of the results as Colleen showed when she was performing her search. Additionally, with Webster's, you can look directly at the Webster's section, much like Colleen showed with AP Stylebook, and you can go from chapter to chapter, or you can search just Webster's to refine and really zero in on your on what you're looking for. Question 3, if you are a news organization, you can receive a discount as an AP member news organization. We also offer discounts if you'd like to keep a credit card on file, and we will provide you on your first year a 20% discount on your annual subscription, and then going forward you'll get our renewal rate, which is 20% off going forward off that first year rate as well. And then lastly, as I mentioned earlier, you have the choice between a named user site license where everyone has a login, or a concurrent user license that could extend to anyone coming in from your organization. I should clarify, with the concurrent user license, to set that up, we would need from either you or your IT team your broadcast IP range. And then we restrict access to that custom URL just to traffic coming from your organization's network. That can also include the IP addresses for your VPN, your virtual privacy network. So if someone is working remotely or from home or elsewhere, they can have access, assuming that they are logging in from within the VPN. So after you've completed this 5-question questionnaire, you can click Find My Style Book, and it will recommend the product that will best fit for you. As you can see, it provides the price, it provides a comparison to the cost based upon what the book would cost. And then if you need to get approval for your order, we have this button here, Email This, which will pop up in your email client, and you can send a copy of this quote to your supervisor or your procurement team so that they can see it and then initiate the approval. Here we can add to cart, and that will take us back to that first page I showed where the item is in the shopping cart. Additionally, if you have a discount code, and I believe we are providing a discount code for participants on this webinar, and the code is medical, I believe. So with that, we're offering a 20% discount as a thank you for participating in this, this webinar. And with that, once it updates, it's been applied, you can see we're offering a discount for that particular code. So we do offer discounts at different times during the year, and this would be one that would certainly qualify with the group of people that are participating today. Additionally, if you need more for your procurement team than just an email indicating, you know, this is the price I was given, you can request a price quote. And so if I click on that, you can enter in the name of the procurement person or your supervisor that you want to get a copy of the full quote on our AP letterhead, and it includes a PDF attachment. You would need to include their name, their email address, and then a short message if you want to include in the email. Then that person will receive a copy of the quote, much like it would look in our shopping cart, and you can then, they will have a copy of a PDF version of that, of the invoice, which includes a button where they can go ahead and place the order directly for you. So that covers, I think, a lot of the content that I wanted to discuss with you, the differences between the named users and the concurrent user licenses, the request a quote function, our shopping assistant, and how that you can use that to determine which product is your best fit. So I know we're right at the top of the hour here. Colleen, did you want to take over and address any questions or anything else that we might have?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back and make sure that everyone caught that offer that Chris showed you how to use. The promo code MEDICAL gets you 20% off any flavor of AP Stylebook Online. That includes an individual subscription, a named user site license, a concurrent user site license. If you'd like to add in Webster's New World, our official dictionary, or if you'd just like to have AP Stylebook Online on its own, anything you'd like to subscribe to between now and the end of the year, you'll get 20% off. And I should mention, if you can't hear it in your head, that's 20% with the % sign, since that's the AP style. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. I'll just give everyone one last shot. If there's anything that we went over too quickly or anything you were hoping we'd cover today that we didn't. If not, you're welcome to email me directly. My email is cnewvine, that's N-E-W-V as in Victor, I-N-E, @ap.org. And you can reach Chris with any of your technical questions. He's Chris@stylebooks.com, at stylebooksplural.com, just like you see up at the top of the screen there. And we do have one quick question: is licensing required for individual subscriptions? So I just want to check and make sure I understand the question. And that's, this is an annual subscription. So you will need to pay every year, whether you want to have that 1 seat or whether you'd like to have 10 seats or 50 seats. So you go through the subscription process the way Chris showed it, regardless of whether it's individual or site license. Did that cover your question? Okay, great.
I'm going to also point out on the shopping assistant page, there are tabs across the bottom explaining the features, specifications, product FAQ, tech support, but also pricing chart. So as Michelle had asked, we do have the pricing listed here for individual users, but then also for named user pricing, named user with access to Webster's, concurrent users, and then also concurrent users, including Webster's access. So dependent upon your needs, we have discounts for the more users that you have, but this should provide you with our pricing for any level.
Yeah, and the pricing chart is often helpful for people if they're sitting sort of right at a break point between, maybe you have 60 users and you're trying to figure out if you'd like to go ahead and get the 100 user license or maybe try and shoehorn yourself down into the smaller license. But I think, as you can see from the complexity of those pricing charts, that's one of the reasons we created the shopping assistant, so you don't sort of go cross-eyed trying to find your way through all of the different permutations of the rates. But they're absolutely there if you'd like to figure out where you sit in and do some comparison shopping. We have a question about how long the discount code will be active. So again, that's through December 31st. So anytime between now and the end of the year, you can use that. You can use it more than once. So if you'd like to buy yourself a subscription and then use it for a little bit and convince your boss before the end of the year to get a site license for the office, you're welcome to use it multiple times. And I think that's it for our questions. Thanks everybody for hanging in there for 30 minutes of our fast talking and getting a lot of content in there with you. You'll be getting a follow-up email with this webinar recording so you can watch it again or share it with anybody in your office if you'd like to. We appreciate your time and thanks so much.
Thank you.